While the death of George Floyd has sparked a national outcry for transformational reform of the police, many of us are wondering what that actually means, and is it a recipe for disaster? Joining us now is the former mayor of Cincinnati and Black Voices for Trump, Ken Blackwell, and co-chairman of Project 21, the national leadership network of black conservatives, Bishop Counsel Ned. Gentlemen, welcome.
Good to be with you.
Thanks for having me on.
So let me start with, I want both of you to weigh in, but Ken, first you. Can you explain to me what has been like for you throughout your life? Is this a situation where you get pulled over for driving while black? I mean, I think for a lot of folks in this country, they don't have any idea what goes through the life of an average African American in this country. So what has your experience been?
Well, in the 70s, 60s and 70s, a different time, but still the same practice that disturbs a lot of people today, and it's that I got stopped just because of my skin color. But that just fueled my activity as an elected official, as a city council member, as a mayor, as a neighborhood leader, to work on community-based policing, transparency and of operations, and accountability, and it's worked. Look, as mayor, I led the effort under a consent decree to integrate the command forces of our police department. I've seen that happen across the country as an official with the National League of Cities and the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And so I know that what is happening in cities at the local level are that citizens have in fact spoken out against wrongful use of force because they understand that we've invested a lot of power in police departments to use lethal force. And so transparency and accountability is important, but I agree with the president. You know, you have bad apples, but you can't let those bad apples curse the entire bundle or basket of good police officers.
Bishop Counsel, if you were talking to a young black youth right now, what would your advice to them be? I hear over and over again that fathers will say we had to have the talk with our son to tell them. Is this gotten to be worse over the last several years, or is it getting better?
Well, I honestly think it's getting better. I had some similar experiences to Ken. You know, I went through this 5-year period in the late 80s, early 90s, where I think I got pulled over like 28 times in this 5-year period and never got one ticket. They just wanted to see who I was, send me on my way, basically. You know, I'm not justifying that, but that's just the way it is. That hasn't happened to me in a very, very long time, that I just got pulled over seemingly for my skin color. But, you know, I think it's important for people to know that there are some police officers out there who have an inherent animosity towards African Americans. You know, I tell my wife, I tell people I know, if you ever get pulled over, put your hands on the dash. Leave your hands visible where people can see them. Let them know that you're not a threat. If you're driving at night, turn your lights on. If your windows are tinted, roll down your windows. Let them see that there's absolutely nothing for them to be afraid of. And then hopefully they'll just go on their way with giving you a warning or without giving you any ticket at all.
Can I just real quick follow up, Bishop? When you get pulled over these 28 times, was it exclusively white officers that pulled you over, or was it mixed race?
No, it could have been anybody. And I grew up in the. I'm a law enforcement officer in Pennsylvania now, in addition to being the bishop of a church. But at the time, I was living in Washington, D.C., my hometown. And so it could have been any police officer in the D.C. area.
Ken, we just spoke to the president of the IACP, and he was talking about all the defunding that's happened in these other programs, which has led to police officers taking on more and more responsibility. Do you think that it would be helpful, some are saying this, if there were specialized police, where you have a police officer who's also a social worker, a police officer who's also a medic? Would that be a solution at all?
I really don't think so. But I do know that there are school districts that have school resource officers who in fact take on a special training of dealing in schools with young people and working with teachers and educators. You know, I think that specialized training in that situation is fine. But we need to stop piling on responsibilities for law enforcement officials. Their job is tough enough already, and they have to make split-second decisions in many instances, and they can't be the social worker or the school psychologist. They have to be the law enforcement officer on the spot at that time. It goes into our recruitment and our screening of the folks who we put on online in that very special position. That's why making sure that there's sufficient pay, making sure that we have established standards of behavior that we're willing to enforce, so that we are constantly weeding out those folks who are at risk of doing something wrongful like the officer did in Minneapolis, or lack the character to step in and intervene like the three other officers when you see someone doing something that is against standards or and in violation of common decency and the law.
Hey, Bishop, we have about a minute left, so let me just ask you this. The president sat down with law enforcement and had a discussion with them yesterday. Should he sit down with African-American leaders and just listen to their concerns? Do you think that that would be a good first step for the White House?
Well, I think that the president's taken an interesting approach since he's come into office. He's not been shy about meeting with anybody on just about any major matter of importance, and I suspect that this is going to be any different. I suspect in the near future, after people's tempers have calmed down a bit, things have settled down, that he's going to be meeting with black leaders across this country to get their views, find out what people think on these various hot topics that have inflamed and enraged the country.
Right. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for this insightful conversation. I think we need to continue this, so thank you both for being here.
Thank you.